I'm TJ Wright. I have a YouTube channel, TJ the Brick Wright, and that's where I show off most of the things I have. So today I have a Resistance versus Final Order battle. I always had issues with the sequel trilogy and the vehicles they made weren't all that creative in a lot of cases. So I started redesigning ships on my own to kind of replace those and make my own story to make it a little more interesting to me. So the Walker was actually designed trying to fix what some people claimed were problems with the AT-AT. So instead of 4 legs, it's got 6. Instead of being an assault vehicle, it's more of a command structure. So I can actually open the top and stuff if you guys like. I have to disrobe.
Don't want to knock over any builds here.
No. The sleeves like to catch stuff. So out of the top here is a little ammunitions factory. And so inside you can see a bunch of workers, and they've got all the ammunition and stuff in the top. Now the secret to that is there's actually no way for them to leave that room. I was supposed to put in like a little ladder or something, and I totally forgot to do that. But it's pretty fun. Everything that I build has to be pretty sturdy because I've got 6 kids and they all want to play with stuff.
That's a good test for your building skills.
It absolutely is. All the ships are real swooshable for sure. So then out of the top, if we open that up, we've got a little command station. They had a little lighting up the dark event last night for the AFOL, so I've got some little LEDs. They don't shine that well through the transparent red, but they do pretty good.
We can take a look at the guns here as well. So what do you have happening here?
So we have a few different guns. We have some anti-aircraft guns, and then we have some long-range artillery. Since this is more of a command vehicle, I also thought some long-range artillery would be good so that it could launch those off into the battlefield from a pretty safe distance. We don't want our generals in harm's way, right? Another feature on this thing is these closing blast shields. One of the other complaints people have in Star Wars is why do they have windows all over the place when they can get shot out? Now, supposedly they're very strong, but shields should take care of that complaint pretty easy, right? And then underneath this thing is actually a whole barracks. It's got some beds and a little kitchen, an air hockey table, you know, just the usual things that you would have inside of a little barracks area.
That's super cool, and I love that you included the interior details in addition to building the whole walker itself here. So then what are these little robots doing on the outside?
So the idea in this build is that the robots are in the middle of constructing this thing. It's a classic rebel tactic. You find out the Empire's building something huge, so you go and attack it before it's finished. Obviously it doesn't always work like the second Death Star, but that still happens anyway. Now the battle in the front is actually just a distraction because there are actually 2 rebels who snuck into the back of the vehicle so that they could plant some thermal detonators, but they have some very clever disguises here in the back. You can see, yeah, those mustaches, they just keep that First Order people completely out of the way. Totally none the wiser right there.
I love flawless.
Flawless execution of a disguise.
What is this ship back here?
So this is just a little transport ship. This, surprisingly, was years in the making. I had these engines right up tight to the front, and it sat up on my shelf for a couple of years before I realized I needed a transport and could just open it up. It's inspired by the Neimoidian shuttles, the Sheathipede from Star Wars, and yeah, it just happened to come together really quick one day, and it totally worked. The whole thing is actually mounted separately on the platform just underneath it, so it makes it a little squirrely, but the tilting forward, I think, gives it a little bit of a not attached feel. So maybe makes it a little bit better.
I also love the crane here, which gives a really nice kind of construction feel, like everything's still coming together.
Right. Yeah, another secret about that is I felt like the build was still a little too short, so I built the crane. That was the last thing that I built for this thing.
Is there functionality there?
There is just a little bit of functionality, so this can slide forward and back on its own. I was going to have a droid thing on there, but ran out of time. But then, of course, it kind of works. Just don't try to lift anything with it just yet until I get it a little more secure. Maybe next year.
And then what do we have running along the side here?
All right, so up in the front we have a Reaper class shuttle. And this thing has the wings move up, and then when the wings are down, the back of the shuttle, well, the back of the shuttle's supposed to open up. You know how it is.
Mechanical failure.
Yeah, as soon as you try to show it off. There we go. So that opens up. I actually have a Thrawn minifigure in there because, yeah, somebody told me he's actually worth a lot more than I thought, so I went and hid him right away. Don't want things walking away, right? Then we have these guys. These are Trident droid starfighters. And what's cool about these guys is they follow along these other Starfighters, but they have a probe droid head in the middle that can rotate 360 degrees. So even if you pull up behind one of these things trying to take them out, they can flip right around and take you out as well.
Very unique design. I love that, the triangular wings there.
Yeah, I was experimenting with a lot of different designs, and I was trying to build a droid that only used one set of the old Sith TIE Fighter that came out for Episode 9. And I was able to build both of those droids just using the wing parts from that set. So that was nice. Otherwise, you'd have to buy multiple sets, and those are getting even more expensive. Then the Interceptor vehicle right there, that was inspired by E.C. Henry on YouTube. He has some rotating wings Starfighters that have drop-down cockpits as well. And so the wings actually rotate into a horizontal position when you lift it up, and then there's a quick little button to drop the pilot down on it as well. So that's pretty fun. Then out on the battlefield, we have these I call the Cyclops Walkers. They're just a classic TIE Fighter design so that your TIE Fighter pilots can come down, jump in one of these things, and the controls are very similar. So then they can jump from one vehicle to the other and just be a little bit quicker that way. We've got a bunch of little Easter eggs in the build as well. Like I mentioned, the little scavenger hunt. So you'll see things that don't quite make sense, like a Tron light cycle that's been modified into a speeder bike in there. It's just something fun for people to keep an eye on. There's 3 Baby Yodas and a bunch of other fun stuff. But these drop ships and this, I call it a Venator class A-Wing, just from the overall shape. But these are some of the last vehicles that I've been working on. And I try to put up my instructions on places like Rubricable or other custom sites. But those aren't quite up yet. Still working on those instructions, but it's a lot of fun. And I love just building custom vehicles. You know, anybody can build an X-Wing. Let's see if we can be inspired by the X-Wings, right?
So Cody's the king of swag. I'm here, Joker of swag, putting a little skin in the game.
Some of these little flesh-colored things, skin in the game.
What a great show. People just handing out pieces.
Absolutely. No, from what I hear is BrickSlopes is the #1 swag convention. They're just throwing Lego at people, like quite literally. We had a few detonations, if you remember.
But with a fantastic build like this, you always need more pieces, and I love what you've done with the colors here as well. So like different color variations that kind of add different variety to the ships as well.
Absolutely. Color variation is very important, especially when you run out of a particular color and need to switch to a different one. I mean, no, that was all deliberately. I did that totally on purpose.
What are some of the different minifigures we have represented in here? Are there any customs, or are these all official Lego figures?
Every figure in here is an official Lego minifigure. Some of the Rebels are a bit mix and matched, but there's Cassian Andor in there. We've got Chewbacca. All 3 of the main droids are in here. So you got R2-D2, C-3PO, and BB-8 are all represented in there. I have the top off of one of those drop ships that you can see inside, Leia Organa, and a few other people that are having a little discussion over a holo table inside that, which is fun. Otherwise, yeah, they're all official minifigs. I actually picked up a few of them here at BrickSlopes. Some people were selling the red Sith Troopers for really great prices. It was really cool, and so I threw those on there last minute because, hey, why not? You can always use a few more troops, right? Then we also have a secret Boba Fett and an Iron Man that are hidden in there as well, just to help throw people off a little bit, see if anybody notices. Some have and some haven't. I think probably the #1 thing that people love to see, and you'd have to kind of zoom out and look at it from a particular angle, is right here in the sand is actually the Star Wars logo. It's kind of hard to tell. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but right there it actually has the Star Wars logo in the sand. And that was one of the things, you know, when you're building a big display and putting all these little tiles on, you start thinking, is there anything else I can do to make this a little more interesting? And so it seems like it worked out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the build. It's the biggest one I've done so far. Years in the making if you include building all the vehicles, but I'm really proud of it. And in the end, the Walker actually won the Best Star Wars Vehicle Award this year, which is pretty fun.
Congratulations. Do you have any idea how many pieces are in the whole layout here?
I have no idea. The floor itself took 6 pick-a-brick cups over at the Lego store to fill out. My guess is there's got to be somewhere between 10 and 15,000 pieces across this. Just the Walker alone is about 7,000.
Are there any other design features you can point out with the Walker here, like the legs or the front section at all?
Yeah, so on the front here, it's got a little horn, and that was actually the original idea to be what I called the Reek Walker from Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, in the Geonosian arena. So I put that little horn on the front, but I never could get the mandible horns to work on it. So it kind of got stuck there. But I'll go ahead and open up the front of it on the inside. So inside there we have 2 complete sets of troops in there. We've got their 2 pilots and then 2 gunners to operate all of the weapons in the front. So that way the pilots don't have to do it themselves. The pilots also have this little here, a little heads-up display. And I just threw some stickers on from some other sets in there, so it's kind of fun to think about. And then on the inside, there's actually a hole all the way from the front. There's a pathway all the way to the back of the vehicle. So it's got a nice hollow section all the way through. So that way you could go from the barracks area straight into the cockpit and vice versa. So unlike a lot of the other sets, even the UCS AT-AT wasn't able to have a tunnel through there. And that was something I really wanted. It's also why it doesn't have a very long neck, because supporting a structure like that isn't very easy.
Yeah, I mean, I love this whole section here, and I love how you've got even like the track there that the towers kind of move on as well.
Yeah, so the little droids can actually move back and forth on here to access different things. I was just trying to find some cool ways to make it look like it's under construction. In the lore or in the story I was coming up with, the walker actually was going to be lowered all the way down into the ground. Then when the resistance attacks, then slowly it raises up out of the ground so that the weapons can be activated. But obviously I didn't have enough parts or time to sink it all the way down into the ground and motorize it to come up or anything. But I think it turned out pretty good anyway.
Yeah. This is fantastic. You also have another little additional build that I thought was pretty cool that I wanted to point out over here.
Sure.
So this is your Infinity Saber. So combining 2 fantastic fandoms, what all can you tell us about this?
Okay, so the Infinity Saber, ever since I found out that there were 6 Kyber crystals that you could get at Star Wars Land and Disneyland, I immediately thought, let's see, six stones. Where have I heard that before? There are 6 stones in something. Oh my gosh, it's like the Infinity Gauntlet. And so I actually got to go earlier this year to Disney, but they only had 3 of the colors. My sister ended up going just about a month ago, and they had the other ones. And before she was home from Disneyland, I already had this partially built because I'm like, oh, I know exactly what I want to do. I would like to see what Iron Man would have made if he got all 6 different colors of Kyber crystals. And so all these Kyber crystals are actually the Galaxy's Edge ones. They work in the Savvy's Workshop lightsabers and the holocrons. And now that I have them all, I just needed a really cool way to display them. So it does have backlighting in there. The big secret to that is I got the lighting LEDs from $1. I'm not quite ready to do the big jump into the official Lego, like really nice LEDs yet, but this is a good starting point, and I highly recommend it as long as you don't break the LEDs while you're putting it in. I only lost one. It was pretty good.
There we go. Perfect. Well, I love all the builds you have here. I love your kind of creative approach to Star Wars with kind of designing new, different ships and taking things in a different direction. And what do you have planned for the future then?
Well, the original plan for this build was to have the walker attacking a rebel base, and I think that's going to be next year. I was going to build a big hill. I just ran out of parts. I didn't even get to the first layer of stuff before I ran out of pieces. So it's all about acquiring more brick, trying to get that new base built, and hopefully next year win the best Star Wars base.
Sounds good. Look forward to seeing more from you in the future. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate everything you guys do. It's been really fun.